Hey there, welcome back. I'm Chris, and as you can see, it is that time of year again where it starts to get cold. Hey there, welcome back. Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back. Hey there, I'm Chris. Welcome back. As you can see, it is that time of year again where it's starting to get cold out, and of course, it always seems to be that this is when the furnace quits working. Now, if you take a look at here, the thermostat says it's set for 66. Right there, it says it's calling for heat. Set point is at 69. So the thermostat is trying to drive us up to 69 degrees. Says it should be on, but the fan is not blowing and there is no heat coming out of the vents. So let's go take a look. As you can see, it's a gas forced air furnace. First thing, we'll check the obvious, make sure it's turned on. It is. If I turn it off and back on, just like a computer, you might as well turn it off, turn it back on again, see if that fixes it. I hear the inducer fan, which is in here, it just came on. The job of the inducer fan is it draws in air. It actually draws it right through here. And I can feel it pulling air. So it pulls air in and then pushes it back out here, which is the exhaust, which goes up to the roof. And this generates a draft to make sure that we get good, circulation of air through the burners. It's been running for, I don't know, a little while now. And by now, I should have heard the burners come on. So they are not turning on. If they had turned on and then it shuts back off, that would likely be something like the flame sensor telling it, oh, I don't see flame even though you can hear it running. There's a viewport right here that you can look in and see if there's flame. So it's not running. Nicely on this one, there's a viewport down there that we can look in and see the control board. So let's head down there and see what we can see. Looks like a 57. So a 57 error is a pressure switch. So let's take a look and see what the hell a pressure switch is and how we diagnose it, why it might be going wrong, that sort of thing. In here, this upper chamber, it's got the combustion chamber in here, but this is where the inducer motor and all of that is. The lower part is simply where the controller is and the blower fan. In this case, I've just got a couple of tabs I twist. That comes off real easily. Now, the first thing we want to do is identify where the pressure switch is. What does one look like? Well, the job of the pressure switch is to measure the difference in pressure between inside. This is our inducer fan motor here, and this is the inducer housing. So it's testing the air pressure in it. It's actually checking vacuum to make sure it's lower than atmospheric, but we've got a vacuum hose here that comes off of it, and it comes right down to the switch here. Now, interestingly, this switch isn't attached to anything. Usually they're attached. They also need to be vertical, not flat, because they're measuring actually a pretty low amount of pressure, usually about half to maybe 1.5 inches of water, which is not very much at all. And the range of it depends on your furnace, what it's hooked to, things like that. This one, a couple of things we can tell. It's got one hose going to it, so it's a single port. That's kind of obvious. So it's going to be measuring the difference between inside this housing and just open air atmospheric pressure. All right, how does this guy work? Well, inside of it is real simple. Basically, you've got two halves that come together and there's a diaphragm, a flexible diaphragm in between. When we apply vacuum on one side, that diaphragm pulls, and that takes a switch, and it's normally open, and what will happen is it pulls this way and it closes that switch. So the first thing we can do for diagnosing this is, with nothing on, this should be normally open. So it should not have continuity between these two poles. And then when it turns on, it should pull and it should close that. To test it, really we just need a volt ohm meter or a multimeter. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Really it just needs continuity. So I can come up here, set it on continuity. If I touch these two together, it beeps, basically testing a switch. So right now it's open, and when I connect it, it closes. So really what I should be able to do is hook it up to the switch as is, and I should not have continuity. Then when vacuum is applied, it should actually close that. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull those two terminals off of there. Again, this is usually fixed to something. You can see it's been broken off. I mean, that isn't a huge deal. It's just important that it sits here. The reason for that is that diaphragm in there. You want it to be just atmospheric pressure that's causing it. If it's laying like this, that diaphragm is then fighting gravity as well. So if it's not attached to something, make sure it's on its side. And we can see here, actually probably has a value on it. It says negative 0.6, so that's probably, vacuum of 0.6 inches of water. The value isn't a huge deal until you go to order one. You want to make sure that you replace it with the same value. So we just connect that up, put it on ohms, and there is no connection. So this switch is open, and it's supposed to be normally open. So now we're going to turn the furnace on, and the thermostat's already calling for heat. So the inducer fan should turn on. Just like that. And this should actually close. So this should have gone to some reading other than open. So we know that this switch is not closing like it's supposed to. So we've at least identified closer to what the problem might be. So there are a couple of reasons this might not be closing. One, it just might be bad. But another is that it might not be getting vacuum here. Now, the best way to do it, the, I guess, ideal way if you were doing this day to day, is to hook a gauge in. So you put a T in with another line, and then you hook it to a meter, which is called a manometer. You can get them for, I don't know, probably around 40, 50 bucks. For a cheap one, I'll put a link down in the description if you're interested. I do not have one because I don't really have a whole lot of need for one. I do have a vacuum gauge out in the shop for automotive work, but a vacuum gauge is a much higher vacuum level. Again, this is 0.6 inches of water, which is, I don't know what that is in inches of mercury, but it's very, very small. So the resolution on my vacuum gauge just wouldn't be enough for me to be able to tell much of anything. What I do know, though, is a common reason that these fail is this tube gets plugged up with sediment. So what we can do is we can remove that. It's got some sort of a orifice here, but that's normal. I don't see anything. I'm going to pull this off here. I'm just going to blow through it. So the tube itself is fine. Now down here on this port, a little hard to see. Let me zoom in on it for you. I'm just going to take a chunk of wire and make sure it's clear. Now I'm just going to hook things back up and give it a try. Sometimes that's all this takes, is just cleaning that thing out. And we'll re-energize again, holding it sideways. Still nothing. All right, still nothing. So the next thing I want to do is check to see if I have vacuum at all drawing here. So if we don't have a manometer, but we want to check to see if there's at least some sort of vacuum, what we can use is something that generates smoke. Things that work well are, you can light a match and let it burn out, though it doesn't last very long. Another option is like a punk from, fireworks at 4th of July, or even an incense stick or incense cone. I do have a cone here. I'm not a huge fan of the smell, but you got to do what you got to do. So you can see we're generating a good amount of smoke here. We disconnect that and we're going to see if it draws that smoke in. Kind of hard to see the smoke, but you can see when I get it close, there's a draft. I don't know if you can hear me with that fan running, but it's kind of hard to see the smoke, but when I get close, you can see this gets brighter because of the draft pulling into this. So this is actually drawing air. So without a manometer to make sure it's pulling the right amount of air, my gut reaction is this is drawing, but this switch isn't closing. So my bet is this switch is not working. So where are we right now? We know that the inducer fan is turning on. It is drawing air here. I could definitely feel it. It is pushing it out the exhaust. So we know that the exhaust is not plugged. In fact, that's one of the purposes of this, is for safety. We know that this is producing vacuum. We don't know that it's the exact amount, but we know that it is producing vacuum. But let's do one more test just to show you how this works. When that pressure switch closes, it connects these two wires. So we can simulate that by connecting them. I'm going to use a fuse. Now, it's not because it's a fuse that this works. I'm just using that because it's got these nice connectors that fit real easily in here, and it's conductive across those two terminals. If I had had a wire with some spades, I could have done that too. The value doesn't matter. We're just connecting these two wires. Now, if we are basically simulating that switch, I should turn on the furnace and heat should turn on. Now, because there is a safety built in, when I turn it on, it actually checks and goes, oh, this thing's already closed when I'm not running, so it's not going to operate. But if I have it disconnected and then it starts, then I connect. There goes the piezo. And you can just see it here. Let me get you a little lower. And now we'll have heat here. If I pull this, the safety system will shut it off. So the gas is turned off and the fan will spin down. So again, what we've done is we've simulated that switch. The control board checks to make sure it's not closed when it fires up. It then starts to run the inducer. When the inducer is spinning, it then wants a connection here, at which point it'll give heat. So if you were in an emergency situation, you could, with a fuse or a jumper wire or something along those lines, turn on the furnace, do all of these shenanigans. Again, I don't recommend this because, well, this is part of the safety system for this furnace. But if it were me and it were an emergency where things were going to freeze and I needed heat, that's probably how I would attack it. You know, because it's kind of fun and interesting, and what the heck, saves 40 bucks. Let's just make a manometer. We really only need it for a one-time use, so let's go down to the kitchen and build something. That zero's in the wrong spot. If I apply vacuum here, it's going to go this way. So really we want a zero over here. We know that here is half, here's 3/4, so 0.6 is probably somewhere right around there. So we're going to fill this up with liquid to right here. We'll use colored liquid so it's easier to see. Then when we apply vacuum here, this is open, so it's going to pull water around this, and if everything is working right, it should pull from 0 up to 0.6, because that's what this thing reads. So let's put some water in this and take it up to the furnace. And yeah, it looks pretty darn close. All right, here we go. I put a T here. An elbow would have worked, but this is what I found out in the garage. It's open on this end, so we're going to apply vacuum here. I've just filled it with water, colored it so it's easier to see, filled it up to the 0 mark. So what's going to happen is we're going to apply vacuum here. It's going to add vacuum to this side, which is going to lift this column up, and that switch activates at 0.6 inches of water column, so we should get just at about 0.6, a little bit over. If we have under 0.6, then we know it's a vacuum problem. If we are reaching or exceeding 0.6, then we know it's the switch. So we just take this, plug it in, and turn it on. And it's as easy as that. That's how it works. Let's test it again. Make sure it's right at 0. I'll turn it on. I will say that vacuum signal seems a little weak. It's getting right up to the 0.6. I would have expected it to go almost to a full inch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to search around here for a potential leak, see if there's somewhere else that it might be pulling in. And again, the easiest way to do that is with something that generates smoke. It might not be super easy to see here, but right here by this vacuum port, I do see a crack right there, which is a little odd, but it's a long story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to seal that with something, maybe some silicone, just to see if that takes care of the problem. And if it does, then we'll probably order a new housing for this. Well, as a temporary measure, I just put some silicone in there. While doing that, I noticed, I don't know if you can see that, but if I push, it's opening a gap there. Almost certain that that's the problem now. So I filled some of that in. We're going to run the test again. And I'm going to grab onto this and pull it forward to hopefully seal that. And we'll just take a look and see if that takes care of the problem. Oh yeah, look at that. That goes above 0.6. That goes to like 0.75. So that is definitely the problem. I need to order a new housing. I found a replacement fan and housing. It won't be here for a few days. So I actually put some sealant on all of those cracks to see if this will at least work for a few days while that comes in. So let's turn it on and see what kind of pressure we get. Greater than 0.6. So we'll hook up the old pressure switch and fire it up, see if we get flame. Success! That's all there is for today. Thanks for watching.